Hi, Birdie. Thanks for joining today. I am so excited to introduce my friend Birdie Nicksic. She is joining me today for my podcast, which we're just getting started, and looking forward to hearing you share your experience being part of the SubTo community, investing, starting your own nonprofit. You've done so many amazing things. So just to get started, tell me a little bit about how you first got into the community. You were already there and established when I joined, so I feel like there's a story that I haven't heard yet.
Oh, thanks for having me, Regan. I always like seeing you and spending time with you. So we jumped in February of 2023 to SubTo. We first joined Gator, but then very quickly found SubTo. And I realized that was really what we wanted, because I wanted to understand the language of creative real estate. And even though I did want my money working for me, I needed to understand what it was that I was lending money on. So it makes sense. So we joined, jumped in, we drank from the fire hose, as they say, and just started. We kind of did that for about 2.5 months and got on the daily dials and made phone calls and got really uncomfortable. And then we started door knocking for closers. So I feel like that's sort of like when you're not 100% sure how to start there. I think a lot of people do. And, you know, my husband, David, as you know, is quite good at the belly to belly conversations, as am I. So we kind of teamed up and did that and had some success. And so our journey started there, and we have pivoted many times, or grown and pivoted. And really just the community has grown so much. I'm not sure when you came in to the community, but
yeah, it's been not quite a year for me.
Yeah. So we've been in a 1.5 years, a full 1.5 years. Coming up in February will be 2 years. So it's been really amazing. And I feel like, I say this all the time, but I feel like right at 6 months, things just started to kind of click, even though we had done our first SubTo purchase at that point. And I think we had done a couple of things, actually, a couple of wholesale deals that were creative, stopped foreclosures. But everything started to kind of click. And then we started to really turn around our ideas of what was our Mount Everest? What's our lighthouse? What are we aiming at? What is it why are we doing this? And where do we feel called to grow our business, but also within our purpose. So I went to Pace's last mastermind, which was last October.
Okay.
I'm grateful I did that, even though I really didn't feel ready to do it. I forced myself into the room to be uncomfortable. And I love that I did that, because even though I was still unsure of what my path would look like, I was willing to get in the room so that I could get just chiseled down. It's sort of like, you know, you feel like a little bit like you're training for a boxing match, but you didn't really intend to. And it was really good, though. I really enjoyed that. And it did help me sort of hone in on our goals in real estate. So I don't know if you want me to talk about that, or.
Totally up to you. This is your space, your time, whatever story you want to tell.
Well, we really wanted to move into something that's around working with people who need affordable housing in sort of a transitional way. So men or women who have been homeless or near homelessness, and who are now pivoting to invest in themselves and helping them with that runway. So creating affordable spaces so that they can also continue to layer back into being out in the working world and supporting themselves, and also not maybe going into affordable housing. I think a lot of times people have been through trauma. If they enter into programs, which we have partnership with here in Charleston, you've gone down this road of like starting over, as an adult, and you've mastered a lot of skills that have helped you rebuild your confidence. And then all of a sudden you go out into your small city or something and you realize, oh, now I can't actually afford anything. And to then go into a Section 8 scenario, even though I've nothing against Section 8, and I think it's there for beautiful reasons, I think for the people who have gotten to the point where they've rebuilt and they're seeing that sort of trajectory of moving forward, going into a Section 8 situation is hard and maybe a little emotionally kind of a bummer, And so we're trying to create a scenario where we have co-living spaces that doesn't feel so, I guess, like the buck stops here kind of thing. Now you have to take government help. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and, I know we've talked about some other things that you're doing kind of in the nonprofit space. And it's like, when we first got to know each other in Owners Club, it's like I'm hearing little bits, but it's always good to hear kind of that origin story, like how you kind of got to where you are today and how that, of course, that Mount Everest is evolving. For me, it's evolved already. And, I'm getting more to a place where I'm getting a little more settled on that. And I know this sounds really weird, but I've found myself, and it's such a disgusting analogy, but it's so true for me anyway. And that is, I feel like a snake, and that I keep shedding my skin, and then I grow, and then I shed my skin again, and then I grow again as I've been through this journey already.
And that makes sense. And I think that we both know that it's meant to be that way. We're not supposed to stay the same. And, in regards to our Mount Everest, this isn't even our Mount Everest. Our Mount Everest is much bigger. But to get to that place, we have to become the people that can get there. And so I call this space right now our smaller Mount Everest. This is our smaller mountain range around the big,
base camp.
The big exactly. This is base camp. So I'm just excited because I just know that it is creating the character in us that needs to happen for us to be really good stewards of that Mount Everest, that apex of the big thing. So I'm hoping that we have a partnership here in Charleston with an organization that has been here for 120 years. That they have a massive success story. 120 years for nonprofit is, I don't know. I'm sure that there are others, but that's pretty incredible.
It's exceptional. Yeah.
And so they help men that are homeless. And the difference too is, and I think this is where I want people to understand, is like, we're partnering with an organization. So we're not reinventing that wheel. We're stepping in to create another phase for them, because their bottleneck is that they have helped so many men that now these men are finding themselves exactly in the situation where they need a little bit extra runway, then be able to go out and maybe buy a car so that they can live somewhere and drive into town, because they've established, these are men that have come to the door and said, I want something better for myself. I don't want to live on the street anymore. I deserve to invest in my life. And so they've bought into these levels, right? Or they invested in themselves. So they're level 1, level 2, level 3, and then level 4 doesn't exist. So we're trying to create a level 4. And then this organization now, after 120 years of proof of concept, now they're moving into a program for women. And I'm super excited about that. So that's really what we're aiming to really build and work on. And hopefully this becomes a duplicatable scenario where we can go into other smaller cities that are having the same similar issues and help develop it. So
very cool. And that it made me think a lot of my first real heart-to-heart conversation with Ann, because we had that shared experience of having worked with organizations that helped housing unstable individuals, and help put some things around that. And so, just giving someone housing is never going to solve a problem. It really is putting the skill sets and, helping them from an employment perspective. And like you said, there's so much trauma and all the other type of help that's needed, that if you don't really get this 360-degree view and help with what people need, then we're just not setting people up for success. So that's so cool to hear that part of it, because I had not actually heard that before, even though we had talked about some of your other nonprofit work, and I realized that that's what kind of binds us together in our interest in revitalization and transforming communities, that we're all kind of coming from the heart with that, and it's really amazing to be able to work together with a group that is trying to combine, being successful with helping people at the same time. So very nice.
Absolutely. And I think we both know this. We all know this. It's like that's a weird thing of being, having that mindset of like, well, I'm making money. This feels weird.
Right.
But honestly, I think what I have come to realize at this age in my life is like, I can't help all the people I want to help unless I do make money.
Absolutely.
Because I can't, it doesn't have to be my part-time gig.
Right.
It can be my full-time job. It can be my purpose, it can be my goal. And in order to do that better and better and better, I need to be able to make money.
It's that learn to earn to return mentality. And I think
I love
when
that.
you see that full cycle, it makes a lot of sense, and it really hits home. That's really great to hear that part. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, there are a few other things I wanted to ask you about, but share, if you would, with the audience, your role in the community has changed recently. And I'm so proud and excited for you, and would love to hear you kind of share your own story of that. And congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So Pace's team came to me and said, we would really like, there's another person obviously in the group as well. So we have a couple of people that we need to help us sort of connect and be, they use the word, it's like a connection, a concierge sort of person, because a lot of people, you're very interactive, you're very social, and we can't his team is working on all of the things. He throws, as you know, some just epic and incredibly valuable events.
Absolutely.
And they can't do it all.
Right.
And so what better to have a concierge within the community, the people that are actually doing all the work, showing up for the events, doing the Zooms, participating on our side of the aisle, what they're creating. And so they came to me and said, would you be interested in doing this? And really getting to know the people inside this Owners Club community and helping to make sure that they're getting the most out of it, and connecting them, helping connect them, and helping to make sure that they're understanding what this experience could be for them if they're feeling a little stuck or whatever, and helping them to find their own magic. I think
that's so huge. Just the fact that your role and Luz's role, have been designed with that specific intention, because I think, for all the effort that goes into all of the events and things, there is part that lies with the member of Owners Club or with the SubTo community at large, that, you have to take responsibility for taking action. But sometimes there's these little small gaps, and, it's people overcoming those fears. And even like the No One Left Behind challenge, like I've actually got this sitting off to the side here, because
I did not take that on. I could not take it on. I will do I'll probably do the January one, because we're working on this project with Pace for the pitching. Oh, we're not pitching. We can't call it that. We're calling it Dealmate. The Dealmaker Festival, the Dealmaker event.
in December.
We're going to do it in January.
Oh, it's in January now.
January. So we have trainings for it. So that will come out, but we're going to have a few trainings 3 or 4 trainings before the actual event. And so we're spearheading that. And that's, you know, that's great. I mean, it's also teaching me a lot about organizing teams. And
yeah,
that's not something that, you know, Luz is very integrator minded and very integrator brained. And again, this is to Pace's genius. I didn't really know Luz coming into this position, which is so funny. So she knows a lot of the community and I know a lot of the community, and some of that overlaps, but some of it doesn't.
right.
So she had the vision to pick 2 people who are really, not that she's not somewhat of a visionary, but we're very opposite personalities.
Right. Well, that's what makes, I mean, really, it's like a partnership. It's the yin and the yang. You bring different skill sets where you excel. It's not to say you don't have the other skill sets, but there are some that are more dominant in your personality.
Yes. Yes. So I've just loved working with her. She's on it. I mean, I'm more Pace, like this idea and this idea. And, you know, like throwing things around, and she's just like plating everything.
Getting
like,
it done.
I'm like, you're amazing. I'm annoying. You're amazing. But so that's been really, and it was such an honor for me. I really honestly was, you know, I'm very hard on myself. I think a lot of us are. So I wanted to make sure that I could actually bring my best to the role. And I think I'm doing okay. I don't know. We'll see.
I think you're doing a great job. Well, and the funny thing is, I noticed you really stepping up and offering to help people before, you know, this was official, but I don't know where it was, if it was kind of in the works at that point. But, you know, that's the kind of thing that gets you asked to take on a role like this, like seeing like that whole mindset of, you know, selflessly helping the community. And there are so many go-givers in the community. I mean, there's certainly no shortage.
No shortage. No, right. And yes, I think that sometimes for me, helping other people solve little hiccups, or maybe they're stuck, helps me actually also unstick myself, if that makes sense. And I'm not doing it for a selfish reason, but I realized throughout this process of spending time with people, listening to people's keynote speeches or doing things like that, when I'm giving them advice or listening to them, it's amazing how insightful I am. I can't look in the mirror and say the same about myself. So,
well, you can't. That's just the way it is. You know, you will always look at yourself differently than you do others. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, it's true. No, it's 100% true. So, yeah. So it's exciting, and it's teaching me to be more intentional with my time. And I was nervous to say yes because I don't want to underdeliver. And I wanted to make sure, and I had to really think about it and look at my calendar and decide. And I realized, oh my gosh, I have time. I have time, and I just need to get more disciplined.
Well, and this calendar exercise, hopefully.
Right. That was what yesterday was all about. And I had already kind of been churning that around and kind of trying to implement things in my brain, but his step-by-step thing yesterday was
valuable.
I mean, unbelievable.
So true. Well, and I think that for me, the Owners Club experience has really been like that. And, you know, whether it's the retreat or a Sunday Zoom or whatever it is, and you come away and you're like, I just need time to process this. And then this seems like this is the pinnacle, but then the next Sunday, it's the next thing.
I know, right? I always say that, but I do actually think this Zoom, because here's the thing. He said this yesterday. I don't think most everyone in Owners Club doesn't need we don't need the rah-rah as much. Right. We don't need the like, and you can do it. And like, yes, that's nice. Every once in a while you might be feeling sluggish or whatever down. But most of us are really driven to figure it out. Right. And that's why I say, like, this Zoom was probably the best Zoom I've ever been on, was yesterday, because it was so action item, action item, action item. I mean, literally, if you just do it, I think that's the thing. It's like something you can implement that it will be such a game changer.
Yep. It's the suspension of disbelief. Just do it. Like, it's painful. There's hard work, but just do the work and you will be so glad that you did.
Yes. Yes. I feel like that is what yesterday was. So for me, we've been very blessed to have a multitude of speakers that had so much to pour into us. And a lot of it is these sort of ideas, right? These notions of greatness and these notions of our own, get out of your own way, and like all of this stuff. But this was, I think, in comparison, a starkly different Zoom.
Oh yeah. Very different in nature, but in impact is massive. And because so much of it is, different ways related to mindset. I mean, different, I don't know, it kind of overlaps it all. But, the other thing that's interesting that you mentioned kind of at the beginning is that you had done the mastermind before, which was not that, like a year ago, a little over. And, and I would be curious to hear like how you feel like this compares to that, which clearly this is the next level. But, so many people have done a mastermind of some sort or another, and not that we need to recruit for Owners Club because it's maybe the opposite, but just curious. I've gotten a lot of questions from people in the community. What is Owners Club? What's it all about? What do you guys do? And it's hard to try to encapsulate it. So I'd be curious to hear, having been through the mastermind and, so far this experience through Owners Club, how would you compare the two?
Oh, that's a great question. So again, I think I'm coming from understanding that I'm coming from a totally different lens now. Having been still sort of new and everything just sort of starting to settle in my brain with creative. I would say that it was a really great, I think that it's similar to a retreat in Owners Club, but Pace has said this. I can see where there was a lot of material covered that was sort of like, let's go back to sort of the new-ish not beginner, but like you're in 3 months and here's how you build all of these things to build your business. It's sort of taking 5 steps back and then catching everyone up and then getting to this sort of thing. So I can see where having a mastermind a couple times a year and letting anyone in wouldn't be as impactful, because what we are now doing in Owners Club is taking people who have already built their businesses to a point, or at least think that they have their business set, but like they have an understanding that this is a room full of people and their main goal is to expand their business, expand their understanding.
Not thinking big enough.
Scale, right? Scale your relationships, scale your opportunities, scale whatever, all your business. Find the missing pieces in the room.
Yeah.
And whereas the other mastermind wasn't so much that. It was more like it would challenge you, but more on an individual basis. That makes sense. And not that he didn't promote squatting up and teamwork and JVing with people. He did. But this is like next level. And again, you're paying money to filter out the people who aren't ready to be that committed.
Right.
So I think that is a filtering process that's important. And then I think it's like an MBA, right? It's like an MBA or maybe a doctorate in, like, I can't believe how much more I know.
So true. Well,
I cannot believe how much more.
For me anyway. Yep.
Oh, for me too. And I was, I had a design business. I was around real estate but that was what I thought was real estate, right?
Yeah. Well, that's it. And that's where like I was saying, I keep coming up with this thing where I feel like I'm, shedding my skin and growing into the next one. And that's what's happening. And so it's like, okay, on one hand, I've changed my Mount Everest, but it's because I keep thinking bigger things that weren't even like anywhere out here before that. And, connecting and, just the way these things all interconnect and really truly getting into this power of the collective group that's there. And, everyone.
No. Yeah. Like that's why your analogy is so perfect. The snake with the skin.
It doesn't sound very,
maybe appealing, but it is true.
Mm-hmm.
It is so true. And this was sort of a light bulb that went up for me at this retreat in Boston. Was I was trying to come up with the idea behind my YouTube channel, and I really struggled with it. And I talked to Pace and I talked to Jamil about it, and I was talking to our table, and I realized for me, it is so much about not leveling up for the sake of leveling up. It's because I like when you talk about reinvention, I think a lot of times, at least for me, someone saying I'm reinventing myself means I don't like who I am right now, and I'm just going to go 2.0 or 3.0 or whatever. So I'm going to reinvent. I don't like the wheel, so I'm going to reinvent it. Right. So for me, it became what I realized, because I was like, well, no, I actually liked who I was before. And, but I don't need to reinvent that person. I need to take my wins and layer. I'm layering up. I'm taking my wins to layer and level up. Like I have a t-shirt on, I'm going to put my jacket on, then I'm going to put this on, I'm going to scarf, and then this. And I'm taking layering all of my wins to level up is sort of that thing. So it's just an interesting, you said you keep changing your Mount Everest because you didn't even know that this thing behind door number 3 was there. Right? And I think that's so true, because I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but have you ever been like talking to someone or reading about something and you go, oh my gosh, who was the person that invented the sticky notes? How did they even come up with that?
Yes.
Or like, who knew this guy over here? Like, we used to live in Southern California, and it was like the land of the widgets. Like, we knew so many people who invented the widget. That the thing in the factory needs this little thing. And it's like, who thinks of that?
Exactly.
You know how they think of it? They take what they're interested in, and they get into rooms, and they ask questions, and they talk to people, and they say, what do you need?
Yeah.
What do you need?
Engineers. I mean, that's what.
Yeah. How can I help you? And then they all start talking about, well, shoot, if there could only be this widget. And they're like, oh, I can make the widget, And so I love that and I also love that this community that we have is so, I don't feel like anyone, we're all running onto the court and high-fiving each other. Nobody's sticking their foot out so someone will trip. Right? Yeah. It's such a mindset of abundance.
Absolutely. What's really interesting too, as you were describing the layers and, kind of going to the next level, you realize there's a parallel between this going from the mastermind to Owners Club to the nonprofit that you were talking about. Because you were saying how they got like to phase 3 and there was nowhere else to go. And they're going to phase 4. So it's like your equivalent of what you're enabling for these others through this nonprofit that you've partnered with.
Right. Yeah. They want to layer their wins to level up. So I don't want to have them go apply for Section 8 voucher.
Right.
It's like, and again, that is there, it's in place, and it's helpful for one pattern of people. Right. but it doesn't have to be the only method.
Absolutely. This has been so amazing. What a great conversation. I think we've had some other amazing conversations in the past, but this was really great to kind of dig into your journey through the community. And what's really amazing is we're not done yet. So who knows what this will look like a year from now.
I can't wait. I can't wait. And I'm going to have you on my podcast.
Ah, thank you.
You can share what snake skin you're on this. How many skins have you shed, Regan?
Yep, that's a good question.
Great things. No, but you are so, I'm really proud of you. And like, you're so, I just feel like you're someone that absorbs the information and then implements it. Yep. And I just really admire that.
Well, thank you. I think, everyone in the community brings different things and inspires each other. And like you said, that cheerleader analogy is so true. For me, I feel like I have to take action right away. If I don't, then, it's like even just keeping up with it all. It's like, I'm just going to do it. And sometimes things are not going to go right the first time or the second time. And I actually find that I learn a lot more from things that don't go my way than things that do go my way. So that's okay too.
Yeah, that's so true. And I tend to be, you're so wise to say that, because I tend to be someone who avoids, I'm like, have to have it like in a nice box. And I don't want to do it yet because it's not in a nice box. And that's not the way to learn. You actually learn faster by tripping and falling down and getting up, and tripping and falling down and getting up.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that there's this whole kind of school of thought around failing quickly and iterating, and that failing forward thing, and doing it in teams and bringing a high level team that's all at the apex of whatever it is their area of expertise is. Let's put our minds together, let's do these amazing things. And we're seeing that play out already, which is just it's kind of like, I'm rarely speechless, but I find myself speechless. And
it's so true. And I think you're experiencing that too. Like, you're right, spearheading the Gary, Indiana revitalization. And I think I'm really excited to see where that can go. And I know it's going to move forward. I mean, it's moving forward.
Yeah. Creeping, but
but it doesn't matter. It's and no doubt there will be walls.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if there's enough of us pushing at it.
Well, and that's it. I mean, here you are, helping Anne get ready for her workshop, and you're doing these things in parallel, in Charleston and in Savannah, which are different kinds of places, but it all really does work so well together. And, it kind of comes into our lived experience that advises what we're doing on these other projects. So it's, this whole ecosystem analogy is something that I see over and over in all the things that we're doing, and that, they don't exist in a vacuum. And one ball, that inertia, it kind of impacts something else, and then it moves.
Absolutely. And sometimes people have, like, we know this, right? No, there's no idea under the sun that is new. There's no new idea under the sun.
Right.
So sometimes, at least I do this, well, I'm sitting alone and I have all of these thoughts and I spend a lot of time in my head. And when you start talking about these things, you realize how many other people are also thinking the same thing as you. And so if you learn to work that muscle that is community and collaboration and conversation, how much further you get.
Absolutely. And just manifesting things.
Yes, it's amazing.
I realized that it's slowly getting dark there. You're an hour ahead. So that tells me I've been talking too long.
No, me too. Me too.
So amazing. I'm so glad that we did this. And thank you for coming on. And I know we'll be talking soon. Have a great rest of your day.
Regan.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.